Okay, we're back in the studio for, well, my office.
Studio.
Because I think it's one of those videos where we've learned a lot, but we didn't know we were learning stuff until we looked at the trip in hindsight.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is the Disney World experiment. And I felt like we were missing the part where we were actually sharing the things we learned from how we were experimenting at Disney World.
So, welcome to the Disney World experiment.
Welcome. This is kind of going to be a behind the experiment. So like, you get to see our days in the park and like us ramping up for getting to go on a trip.
Yeah.
But we haven't really talked about kind of like when we sit down and we talk afterwards about our trip.
Yeah.
Because you know you do that. On the flight back, on the drive back, you talk about the things that worked, what didn't work, what you would do again, what you wouldn't do again. We wanted to share those things with you so maybe you could learn from our mistakes and didn't have to make your own.
Okay, so I guess this episode we're going to talk about road tripping versus our flight, or is it more about just the road trip?
Probably mostly about our road trip. With flying, I feel like flying's pretty cut and dry. We've talked about it before. You pick when you want to fly, when it's most convenient for you, or whenever it's the cheapest. You're taking yours, you're renting a car, you're Ubering over there. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Road tripping for us was brand new territory. I mean, we've road tripped with our family plenty of times.
Yes,
That's
100%.
nothing new. But taking a 10-hour drive from Nashville to Orlando was more than we had ever chewed
In one setting.
bit off. We want to share with you 4 things that I think we learned the most from.
100%.
So first, your trip's always going to take a little longer than planned. If you are going anywhere other than your normal routine with your kids in the car, you know it
Especially
takes
on a holiday
longer.
week.
Well, yeah. So the trip was supposed to take 10 hours, according to what, Google Maps?
Yeah, I think so.
And we know already, we're building in a lunchtime, a couple of like snack breaks, bathroom breaks. So like an extra 2 hours, we guesstimated.
Yeah, our expectation was 12 hours.
12 hours. It didn't, it wasn't 12 hours. To get down there, it took us closer to 14. We hit intense spring break traffic driving through Atlanta. So like, know your route really well. Is there a specific area where things really get congested? Can you plan for it? Can you do anything about it? If not, you sometimes have to deal with it. Atlanta is one of those spots for us.
I would also make this kind of caveat or claim. I think, and this is just a hypothesis I have, but the age of your kids probably is a direct correlation to how much extra time you take on a trip.
I don't know, my bladder's just as weak as our kids are sometimes.
Mine too. I thought I was right. No. Oh.
Add time for the weakness of your bladder.
Or your children's. Whoever's the weakest bladder, that's your weakest link.
You are the weakest bladder. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Secondly, we should have made smarter stops.
Yeah, my bad.
That's not your bad. We both were really excited about Buc-ee's.
So we were sitting at a school bus stop, and our neighbor was like, hey, there's a Buc-ee's on the other side of Atlanta too. And we're like,
double Buc-ee's?
yes! The answer is you don't need double Buc-ee's. You may only need 1 Buc-ee's a month.
I mean, here's the thing. When we were on the way down, we wanted the trip to not seem like we were just stuck in the car. So we planned for a couple of Buc-ee's stops. We planned for a couple of like lunches, well, like food, like lunch and dinner we knew we'd probably do on the road. But we probably just took too long. We learned on the way back to make smarter stops. For any restroom visits, we really depended on rest stops. Rest areas, you get in, you go to the restroom, you get out. We already had snacks packed in the car. We really didn't need to stop for any snacks. It was more about the experience. I'm going to experience things when we aren't trying to get there in under 12 hours next time. So make smart stops if you feel like you are on a time crunch because your kids are only going to last so long.
And you might say, well, that's just a hypothesis. We saved 2 hours on the way back by just making smart choices as on the stops, because we still hit the same amount of traffic. We still hit everything. It was like a little, like, it was a mirror trip up and back. But the only thing we changed was like
where we stopped.
Yes, and it saved us 2 hours.
So, smart stops, big difference. Third, you are going to be driving through Florida where they are using SunPass and toll roads, especially around that Orlando area. It may be worth it to go ahead and prepay for that SunPass. A lot of those you can just drive through and it will charge your license plate, which is really nice. We did that, but it may be super convenient for you just to go ahead, get online a few weeks before your trip, purchase that SunPass and have that little sticker up there. That way, all of your toll roads, which are definitely gonna make your trip faster,
100%.
is prepaid.
And lastly, driving your car or our minivan, where we've got a lot of space, has a lot of packing perks. So each one of us had our own individual suitcases. I brought a laundry basket full of food that I purchased at home. I had a basket full of snacks, and we just had plenty of space to put any laundry we had left over, stored that in the laundry basket afterwards. That was a quick transition home. Had plenty of room to pack our souvenirs, and we had more elbow room in general to move around and exist in our van. yes.
So I would say that was a huge perk. I did not feel confined to suitcases. I packed way more outfits than I need, but doesn't every mom? Extra packing was probably the biggest perk for me. Was there a perk for you for actually having our van?
Yeah, I think for me, and we talked about this on the trip, I think the mobility that we had, not going to the parks, but to anything else we wanted. Like, we heard about the outlet. Like, a lot of our friends told us about stuff, and so we were able to, like, hey, let's go in the van and go to the outlet, or let's get a last minute reservation at Chef Mickey's and drive over there, versus like taking the bus to Magic Kingdom and then hopping on the Contemporary. Like, you can make it anywhere within their within their transportation, but it was just nice to be able to say, hey, let's go to Disney Springs. Oh, let's not get on the bus, let's just drive. Like, it was just nice to have the freedom to
pick up and go instead of planning all of our transportation. Yeah. I mean, transportation there is a huge perk.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
But having the freedom to just hop in our own vehicle.
Yeah. If we had annual passes, it might have been even more awesome to park at the park, but Disney will never bring us back.
Those are the 4 things that we really wanted to share. Hope they were helpful for your next road trip to Walt Disney World or maybe somewhere else.
Yeah.
But if you haven't already, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, share our stuff, and leave a comment.
Yeah, share like a memory you have from a road trip or any advice you might have on a road trip that you've taken so far.
Crazy road trip?
I would say, you said it earlier, it wasn't a bad road trip. It was a long road trip, and I thought it was the longest one I took, but it wasn't. Thanks, Corey Singleton, if you're out there. But yeah, it was our kids did amazing. And like, that's what, in your planning and your packing perks helped us along.
I'm also glad we're out of diapers.
Oh, thank you.
That could have made for a totally different trip. Road trip blowouts, the worst. I'm sure you've got a story. If you've got a road trip story, share it with us in the comments. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.